If you're new here, first and foremost, we always happy to have everybody that tunes in. But secondly, this word is more so like this topic, this message, it's more so going to be kind of like I don't want to say a rant because it's really not a rant. It's more so like motivation, you say. Because this morning, I've really been feeling like I've been reflecting on seasons that I went through and got through. You hear me? I'm sleepy right now, y'all, so don't mind me if I sound a little down. But I'm really feeling joyful for the simple fact that your warfare, your battles, your trials, the hiccups, the unexpected blows, all of that is actually a blessing to go through. And it's all going to depend on how you view it, the circumstance, and how you view yourself. And so the reason why I say this is because it was seasons where I literally, you could basically say curled up in a corner crying. Good afternoon, Robert. How are you? But yeah, you could say curled up on the floor in the corner somewhere, just losing it. Not really, but it would be that detrimental in those seasons. And so what I realized is sometimes we will believe that we're doing what's best, but really what we'll be doing is choosing the route that we believe is safest, right? And so with that route basically being your safe route and this, that, and the third, and when I'm speaking on this safe route thing, I'm really talking to the parents, okay? Because a lot of the times parents will go through heartbreak. We'll go through those seasons that's very hurtful and this, that, and the third. And then we'll believe that our children aren't going to have that same strength. And so if you are a parent who's basically like went through a lot of things and this, that, and the third, and then you be like, okay, I got to do this for my children and this, that, and the third, blah, 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 blah. Or you're thinking that your life decisions are weighing on your children. Understand that your children are going to be just as strong as you are. And so that's the whole reason on why I'm even speaking on you being strong. Because if you believe that you can conquer, that you can overcome, that you're strong enough to get through the battles, if you believe that you were equipped to actually digest pain, you are going to be okay. Your children are going to be okay. Let me just give y'all a backstory on what even got me on this topic in general, and then it'll make more sense. I was thinking about my seasons that I went through that were like extremely heartbreaking, and then looking at my mom. So I'm going to give y'all a backstory on her, y'all. Listen. My mom has one parent. That one parent was very jealous of her, in a way you could say. On top of that, she's the only child. So if your leader, your protector, your provider don't necessarily favor or like you, you have nobody else to run to as the only child, other than people in the world or, whoever you may be dating at the time. So now, being that my mom faced a lot of betrayal from the only parent she has, on top of being the only child, my mom also has 7 children on her own. Like without my dad's children included, my mother has 7 children, right? And so she has two different fathers though. So I got my dad, and then there's 4 other ones, and they got their own daddy. They all share the same dad. And so between these 2 fathers, she basically growing up technically like did everything by herself and on her own. And so imagine having one parent that don't like you, don't like to be, do much for you because you're beautiful, in all honesty. And then you have no siblings to run to, 7 children to raise on your own. But you see that your parent made it, that your parent actually has been extremely graced and favored by God, taken care of every single day of your life. Rather, it was during the seasons where you and your parents were struggling, or in your adulthood, you see that God has literally taken care of this person through every level of destruction that life can even offer. Do you get what I'm saying? And so this is why I'm pointing it out to you, to point out and to look at the things that God has blessed you to suffer through. Because the people that are coming after you, whether it's your child, your nephews, your nieces, they are going to look directly at your story, and who you've allowed your story to create you to be. Who did you allow it to turn you into? You get what I'm saying? And so if you not even just focus on what your children and family may become by looking at your story, but if you actually look at your story and tell yourself what you want it to be and what you know it can be, it'll end up falling under that same joy. And the reason why I worded it like that is because we all might have our own plan, but God always got his, and we all got different blessings. So that actually plays a part in you overcoming your story and your pain, is you understanding that you do not have the same blessings as everybody else, and that you have your own story. And so with that being the case, you'll stop idolizing what other people got versus what you got, because you'll be able to take your story, you'll be appreciative of the uniqueness that comes with your story, and you're able to walk in confident and fulfilled. You get what I'm saying? So that's the only reason why I'm pointing all of this out. And so that people can understand that you have to agree with the fact that everybody is going to face some level of destruction, defeation. Like, we're all going to feel defeated at times. You get what I'm saying? But just because a thing feels like it's the end of the road, don't mean it has to be the end of the road. Like, what do you want your story to be? Do you want to be like, all right, I faced this, that, and the third, but I allowed it to make me better. I didn't allow it to break me. I allowed it to make me better. I learned from it, and I don't regret it. That's another thing. You don't have to regret anything if you grow from it. See, the only time that really you should even have any room for regret is if you just allowed it to make you bitter, allowed it to break you, allowed it to tell you who you were. If you allow those type of things in the midst of your story, then of course you're going to feel broken. But if you look at your story and be like, I faced all of that, but yet I learned how to love, I learned how to give, I learned how to be patient, I grew in my kindness, not only to others, but to myself, not only to myself, but to my children. I grew as a person. See, what people don't understand is when people say what don't break you make you stronger, that's a real thing. Because if you don't let it break you, you become greater. So my whole message for real today is that when you drop into your knees in prayer and you crying out to the Lord because of what you have labeled as the circumstance that's breaking you, if that makes sense. When you're crying out to God, talk to him differently. talk to him differently. Like, one thing that I've come to do in this season of my life is if I'm going through pain, I'll tell God when I want to tell him that I don't hear him, you aren't here for me, I haven't heard from you. When I want to say those type of things, I go to God and I say, Lord, you've been there for me. And I know you have. I know you've been there for me. I've heard you in certain seasons. I don't know where you're at right now, but I've heard you before. And through this silence, I'm going to trust you. Through this silence, I'm going to wait because I know from past experience you are worth waiting on. Those are the type of things that I go and say in my prayer now. Because through the pain, God will teach you to stop leaning on yourself. If you're still leaning on your own understanding, you're going to hurt for an even longer time. Listen, y'all. The reason why I say that is because I know people in my life who have faced the same level of betrayals as me, who have faced the same level of darkness. They have fallen into the same traps that I've fallen in, but they stayed in them. And I'm not being funny, y'all. They stayed. Like, once again, I can almost drop a tear because I don't know. It's just something about things that when I know it's extremely true, it just really touches my heart. But they stayed in those places. And that shows you something. That shows that it gives a decipher between the ones who have decided to trust and the ones who didn't. Because the ones who didn't, they stay on their own understanding and they stay in the same season. There are people who pass away in seasons that they were meant to conquer. They were supposed to conquer and come out, and they did not. So that's my whole reason of coming on here and giving y'all this word on looking at what you've been through and telling God, I was blessed to feel the pain because what didn't break me truly made me stronger. Do you get what I'm saying? So either way it goes, y'all, just do not be one of those people. And trust me, y'all, we have all had the brokenness to the point where we said we just cannot go through life anymore. That's how hurt the pain can get. Like, that's how hurtful that pain can become. And I truly understand that. So if I can stand before you and tell you, I felt all of those things. But even still, I have come to the understanding that it was a blessing to face the trials because it only really highlighted, for one, how weak life really is when it comes to humanity. Life against humanity is not truly, it's a battle, but like I said, it's only a battle that's hard if you tell yourself that life is stronger than you. But if you look at life and you say, okay, I lost my job, but thank God that I have a God that say, if I'll clothe the lilies, what do you think I'll do for you? And I've experienced that in my own life. That's why I don't really fear like jobs and this, that, and the third. I don't fear that type of stuff anymore. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, as humans, you'll have like a worry here or there, but I'm tossing it to God quicker than later. Like, sooner than later. You get what I'm saying? So the whole thing is this. Whatever battle you face, just understand that no matter how dark it gets, you are capable. And whatever God has placed in you is worth the battle. It's worth the battle. It's not a lot of people that stand back up. I promise, I kid you not. Majority of people, they stay where they are. They stay at whatever level they've chosen to compromise. Do you get what I'm saying? Okay, like for example, I'll say drug addicts. Their level of compromising was, I don't need a job. I don't care no more about health. I don't care no more about purpose. I don't care no more about guidance. I am just going to stand and stay right here in this season. And this is not to say that every person that battles with drug addiction wants to stay there, because I don't believe that. But I'm just saying, for the ones who do, they have reached a level of compromise where they say, I don't care about any of these things. So that's the level they stay at. Another example, I'll tell you for myself. When I was at the level of compromising where I didn't care, I was like, okay, I'm willing to be a fornicator. That was the level I would have stayed at. You get what I'm saying? If I wasn't willing to face the pain of walking away from relationships, choosing myself, walking out on faith, trusting God for better, for greater, for more, believing in who it is he truly called me to be, I would have stayed at that level of compromise. You get what I'm saying? So that's just what it all comes down to. Is you figuring out who it is that you want to be, who it is that God placed within you, and what you believe that you are really able to overcome and experience throughout this life. Like, that's another thing I feel like a lot of people got to start looking at, is what is it that you truly want to experience throughout this life? And do you believe that God will grace you to get there? And I say grace because the process is not going to be perfect. So you're going to have to figure out. See, she looked just like her mommy. She's too cute. But you are going to have to figure out what it is you're willing to walk through and where you're headed, so that you can look at yourself and be like, okay, I'm strong enough to do it. And some of y'all done faced battles that's extremely, like, was back-to-back detrimental. Same type of season I went through, a back-to-back detriment. But hello, what God places within us, it's like, what? The flesh is weak, but the spirit is willing? All of that. When Christ had to go through the cross, he said what? The flesh is weak, but the spirit is willing. So therefore, you just keep leaning on God. But if you have a dark look on who God is, if you have a dark outlook on who he is in your life, you're not going to think that he loves you. You're not going to think that he's willing to pull you through. You're not going to think that he has greater. You're not going to think that. You're going to be like, God never sees me. God don't talk to me. He talk to y'all. He don't talk to me. No, sometimes he's just being silent. Right now, I'm going through silence, but silence used to... Listen, y'all. Silence used to break my faith. And in this season, I wanted to do that again. I wanted to be like, here you go, not talking to me again. Here you go, ain't nowhere to be found. But I can't do that anymore, because I know that, for one, I don't force God's hand. He's going to say what he needs to say at the very best time. When he's ready to speak and or give me a sign or two, it's going to be given. And that's just what it is. It doesn't mean that God isn't real. It doesn't mean he don't love me. It doesn't mean he's abandoned me. It don't mean none of that. It means that I got to keep my faith and wait. That's all it means. And like I said, nothing is wrong with waiting on God, because he's worth waiting for. You know what I'm saying? So either way it goes, just wanted to bring this message forth. If you facing a dark season, if you crying and you crying out to the Lord, and you're trying to figure out where did he go and why are you going through these things, it's because what don't break you make you stronger. His silence used to break me. It don't break me anymore. It's made me stronger. I can wait now. You know what I'm saying? I can control myself now. It's just, that's what it is. And this is why I believe God gave me that phrase. Like, right before I stepped into the season that truly should have taken me away from God, before I stepped into that season, God gave me a phrase. And it says, God don't raise weak children. And I truly believe that. And right when he started really dropping that in my season, I went through the worst season of my life. You know what I'm saying? And so, but it's true. He don't raise weak children. So you facing a lot in life